All right, hello, welcome everyone. I want to welcome you to our 2020 Let's Go Learn Fall Update. My name is Richard Capone, and I'm the CEO of Let's Go Learn. And today I'm going to be covering all the updates that we have released recently, as well as talk about some stuff that's coming up in the next few months. First of all, though, let me go over a little bit of a house cleaning or house issues. If you see the big panel on the right for GoToWebinar, and it's blocking things, there is a little orange arrow on the top, and you could click on that, and then that orange arrow will allow you to slide the panel off the screen. Okay. Also on that panel, though, what we're going to do is we're going to take questions at the very end, and if you have any questions, you could go ahead and just type that into the question or chat window, and then Lily or Christina will go ahead and field those questions at the very end. Now, if any of you are having any kind of technical difficulties right now, then go ahead and you could type a question in there, and hopefully we'll be able to answer it. So hopefully you can hear me okay. We will be recording this as well, so all of you will receive a video recording afterwards. And so if there is a problem and you can't handle the technology and you can't hear it, can't see it, don't worry, you'll get a nice video at the very end where you can actually watch it post-event. All right, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start. And so what I want to do today is not just talk about the features that we're releasing, but also talk about the context of what we're trying to do, because I think it's important to understand the big picture of what's happening in the industry, and as a result of that, what we're trying to do as a company. So go ahead and advance this. So first of all, some of you have seen this slide before, but I do want to sort of give you some background context. Assessment and personalized learning has really evolved dramatically over the years, right? Initially, testing was very paper-based. It was mainly for accountability, and then as technology started advancing, you started seeing stuff like PARC and SBAC that had adaptive testing. But there really was a major inflection around 2011 where this became more mainstream. In education, technology assessments were being used to be integrated with instruction, right? And so then we start seeing the ability of assessment to be driving personalized learning. Now, of course, I'm talking about the context of technology, right? And so really, we're at this point where now we're looking at generation 4. So generation 4 testing is saying personalized instruction is becoming real-time integrated with assessment. Right? And that's what we're working towards, right? So you have this idea of these computer-based assessments, and nowadays the norm is you have to use data to drive personalized learning, right? That is sort of the mantra. But can we make that easier for people to do it? Can we make it automatic? Can we make the conversations easier to have? And I would say right now that's not the case. It's still very difficult. And so at Let's Go Learn, what we're trying to do is make this a reality with what we're releasing, but also it's not just the tools, it's also about how we train you, our valuable customers, in using these tools. So as you know, we've always supported the AI model, right? Assessment instruction, and many of you, since you're our customers, you know this is what we support. But this is still important to keep this in the context of what we're doing today. Remember, standards is where we want to get to at each grade level, but we still need to operate inside this AI model, and we still need to make sure we differentiate between diagnostic assessment and summative assessments, and we make sure that everyone understands the difference, right, within our organizations. And so, again, what I'm trying to do is provide some context, because some of the stuff I think that's going to be important for you and us to do over the next few years is to help change the vocabulary in our organizations so that people could take advantage of these new tools and these new ways of working. Right? So what does this mean, right? I'm talking all about these features and things to do, but really there's two areas I want to talk about, at least initially. That's data collection and data use, right? So we need to evolve this. So first of all, better input. And you all understand this. We have very powerful assessments. We don't want you to be using granular or pixelated information, like a pixelated photo. We want you to have a nice sharp image of your students when you're looking at them from a data standpoint. So I'm going to talk about some better data input we have that's coming out, that's been released. And then The other piece that's tied to that is better output. So better output means better conversations. How do you interpret the data? And so we have some things that are going to help that as well. So first of all, the first thing I'm talking about today is formative assessment, right? So there's two types of formative assessments, actually. I mean, technically, formative assessment by definition is you teach something and you test the student right away. Did they teach what you taught? But there is actually formative assessment that's been out in the market by other ed tech companies for a while, which is really standards mastery. So if you know you're teaching a standard, then every week or every month you test the students on that standard. But what we're trying to focus on are the skills and concepts that you're teaching actually mastered, right? So we're trying to take it to a more granular level. We're doing formative assessment, not that you just type in a standard and you test it. We're trying to say, do they know short vowel? Do they know long vowel? Do they know 2D objects? Do they know decimal place value? So we're trying to take it to a more granular skill, concept, student level. And let me talk a little bit more about this. So our formative assessment actually has sort of three components, right? On one level, you all know about DORA and ADAM, which is multiple measured assessments, right? You do that at the beginning of the year, middle and end. Longer assessments, very deep, very detailed. But now you can say, I want to break that up, right? ADAM, for instance, is broken up into 44 subtests and 281 skills. So you can now queue up any individual skill that you've been working on, and you could test the students, and it's a short 3 to 10 question quiz, and you can do this as often as you want. So that's a big piece that's available today under our formative assessment suite. Now, if you don't want to get that granular or do tests every week or every day, you may say, okay, we're just going to do it every 2 to 3 weeks or every month. And it could be more of a subtest. So it could be phonics, it could be fractions, something you've been working on for a few weeks and now you want to test it. And again, our system adapts. Now here's the real catch here, which is pretty amazing. All of this data uses the same vertically aligned grade level scores as ADAM and DORA as our core assessments. So when you take any of these skills, quizzes, or these subtest diagnostic, the data flows into the same vertically aligned data set, right? Now, that means it's automatic. So now the next piece is how do we report on this? So we have something called Active Pulse. So now when you go into the reporting menu, there's something that says Active Pulse Math, Active Pulse ELA. So what this does is, and I'm going to explain this a little bit more and show you some examples, but this is going to allow you to focus on growth conversations. So you don't have to talk so much about, oh, the student testing went down because they weren't quite, energized that day. Oh, we need to go back and look at some previous scores and sort of interpolate what their actual ability is. Active Pulse is trying to take that interpretive layer and bring it together into an easy to read score set that allows you to focus on growth conversations, right? And so I'm going to give you an example of that. But this is really important. So these three pieces are what is a part of our formative assessment suite. So let me give you an example of how this works, right? So initially you do DORA and ADAM or whatever assessment, maybe DOMA, and you get a very detailed diagnosis of the students. You find their zone of proximal development. You have that data at the beginning of the year. Now, as you progress and start teaching students different pieces, you could queue up skills quizzes or concept quizzes on a weekly basis, whether students are remote or not, right? This is really, really important now because some students may be going remote, some schools may be sometimes shutting down or reopening. And we have a lot of customers who have schools that are open, some that are completely closed right now, all remote. And so you need this ability to test anywhere, right? Or let's say, again, I mentioned maybe you don't want to do quite the frequency of skills quizzes every week. You may want to do it every month. That's where you do the subtest diagnostics. Now, the subtest diagnostics are still adaptive, right? So let's say you're doing that. You do the full assessment, number one. You start doing skills quizzes. You do subtest diagnostics every month. And now, when you need to look at the data, all of the data basically is still in the same data set. So again, you come over and you look at your reporting, you click on your progress monitoring button, all of the data is there automatically. You could look at the students and you can see exactly how they're growing, how your class is growing, right? So that's the sort of the workflow we're trying to allow you to do. Now, in terms of special education, of course, this is a no-brainer. I mean, you need this initial data to get your present levels, to write your IEPs, and then skills mastery, and then the subtest mastery is going to help you have real-time progress monitoring data to show that the students are making progress. And so that's going to help you with compliance, right? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now I'm going to show you one other piece to make this a little bit more real. So first of all, let me just jump into a class here. So I'm actually logged in as a teacher. So let me just illustrate how this works. So if I'm in a class, I'm logged in, here's my class. And now today I decide, okay, I want to go ahead and queue up an assessment. So I've already completed my full Adam and Dora, so I have that baseline. But now I've been working and teaching everyone in the class some specific skills. So let's say we worked on short vowel. I can go ahead and select short vowel, and now I can queue it up for the entire class. Or I could queue it up for individual students if I wanted. I could also type in something else like decimal place value. Decimal place value, that's another skill I could queue up right there. Right? And now all the students automatically, when they log back in under the assessment section, they would have a little quiz queued up for them. Again, I could also do it individually to any student that I wanted to do. Likewise, if a month has passed by and I want to do more of a subtest like phonics, I can queue up the entire phonics subtest, and we would go ahead and find a new ceiling point for the student, a new instructional point. And so then it would be automatic. So this is really easy. The idea here is for teachers to be able to just know what they're teaching, and in English, go ahead, find that skill or that concept and queue it up automatically. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to collect the data. All the data then would automatically show up on their Active Pulse ELA or Active Pulse Math tab. All that data flows into the same vertically aligned data set, no thinking about it. And this score right here, when I look at my class, is the latest data all merged together right here. Okay, so let me show you how a growth conversation is going to be modified, right? So let's say I'm working with a student, and maybe they've been, they have an IEP, maybe the IEP was in geometry, or maybe it's just somebody I want to have a conversation with because they've been struggling in math, and we knew that geometry was an area of difficulty. So I'm meeting with the parent, and let me go back over here. Okay, so I click on that little icon. There's a little graph icon that I should have done it, showed you. I click on it. Now in the past, when we wanted to have a data conversation, this is what it would look like, right? We're looking at all this data here. We see multiple tests, and I say to the parent, okay, looks here like your child has, John has maxed out in location and direction. He's mastered all of those. In terms of 3D objects, he's been growing, learning it, but he went down here because it looks like he probably didn't have a good test day. Maybe he was a little fatigued that day. In terms of triangles knowledge, we didn't really test on this one day because, we were doing some quizzes. In terms of area perimeter, he's been making growth, but it looks like he went down here. This becomes a very complicated conversation because I have to start talking about test variance. I have to talk about how sometimes kids are tired and they don't always test their best, so that the data doesn't reflect their true knowledge. So I could still graph all this, or I can graph active pulse data. And this is the same student. So now I can have a growth conversation with the parent. Okay, looks like your child has done growth in 2D objects, 3D, he's made some great growth. He's going up very, very high. Area perimeter, he's making growth. This looks great. But in triangle and quadrilateral knowledge, I feel like he's plateaued. There's something in here that's been a little bit difficult for him. I'm not quite sure what it is, so we're going to have to dive in there and figure that out. In terms of these other areas, circles, angles, geometric relationships, those are newer concepts that were introduced because now he's in a higher grade, and so that's why we see data there. Okay, that is a much easier conversation. So when you start talking to your own organization, your teachers, this is something that we're going to help you learn how to do, because this is great. This is the kind of conversation you want to have. You don't want teachers to have to explain margin of error, variance, students being tired. Now, if you are having a conversation about the child's motivation, then maybe you would show this. this graph, right? Or if you're having the conversation directly with the student, saying, "Hey, John, how come? Look what happened here. You're not trying." That's different. But sometimes you want to have a growth conversation, and this is great. This is live today. This is all available. So you know, again, this is something that you guys can implement if you want to. Okay, so what is the benefit for the teacher here? So what we're offering with the formative is an intuitive formative testing suite, right? The teacher selects things in English, automatic data collection, no worrying about, oh, I did all these quizzes, I need to roll this all up for progress monitoring. It's easier conversation for parents and students, right? So that's what I just showed you. As far as a special education teacher, automatic identification of present levels, which is required in your IEP, right? Progress monitoring is automatic. That's required of, you know, it's part of special education and a student having an IEP. So you have automatic compliance in those areas. Easier presentation of data, which means, again, better legal protection too, because when you don't have good presentation of data, then you're not doing the student as good a service, you're not explaining it to everyone. And finally here, data to target gaps with specially designed instruction. Okay, so all of this data, of course, flows into our Edge product, which provides direct instruction for the student. And so the idea too is when you have formative assessment, the data is more granular and it's going to be better for the student's individualized learning course. So that's a big piece there as well. Okay, so that sort of in summary is formative assessment. Like I said, it's not just a product, it really is a workflow change. So I want to encourage you to reach out to your customer success specialist to see about, you know, if this is something you want to try, or if something you are doing, how can we help you implement it with your teachers? Because there does need to be professional development, right? All right, here's next thing I want to jump into is parents' health. So this is something we just launched, and when the student logs in, what we're looking at here now is the student login page. We added these icons onto this tab. So now the parent, because a lot of parents or students are at home and the parents are proctoring for their child, they can click on this link here, Parent Health, and it comes up with a video in English and Spanish describing what they should do to support their child. So this is something you really need to make sure all your parents know about. All your teachers know to tell your parents. We have tip sheets, we have different instructional links that you could pass on. But this is really important because with the so many students remote, we need parents to help properly, right? Likewise, this icon here tells them what they can do to support their child when they're doing instruction, and this tells them a little bit how they can interpret the data, so they can progress monitor their children when they look at this data here. So this is a great thing, and again, we're open to input. I think this probably was a suggestion by a customer to begin with, and so we're always eager to try to integrate more stuff into our system. All right, the other piece in terms of family communication I want to mention is that we've created slides. So we worked with some of our customers to create slides to position and explain what Let's Go Learn is all about. So we have slides in English, slides in Spanish. And so if this is something you want, let us know. We probably have some slides that we could already adapt for you. This is an example for Pomona. But what we could do is create some slides for you, put it on our external site, or you guys put it onto your site, it doesn't matter. And in that way, I think it's really important to always think about family communication, because sometimes we get so busy that we just sort of forget. But you know, there's a lot of districts, a lot of you have family engagement plans. And so let's go ahead, and this could be a part of that, all right? And also in some cases too, I think we've done videos as well that explain what Let's Go Learn is all about. And again, I think it's always important to bring everyone into the process, because when parents know why you guys have chosen to use Let's Go Learn, it makes it easier for them, and they can help the process. Okay, PD options. So we have a few new PD options, and I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this, but when teachers go onto the home page, when they first log on, they can actually click over to get on-demand courses. So the on-demand courses are like Teacher Getting Started, Edge Basics, Advanced Topics. And each of these courses they're like 30-minute courses, and the teacher would actually get a certificate of completion when they're done with it. So they actually have to take quiz questions. And so this is really a great thing. This should be a part of your onboarding process for new teachers, or maybe it is even something for when teachers come back right? So it's a refresher. But anyway, so this is a great piece, I think, because I think a lot of times we schedule trainings for your teachers with Let's Go Learn, but then we don't think about ongoing maintenance. We don't think about the turnover when there's new teachers coming in. So this is a great piece to take advantage of. And everyone has available, it's all available, it's free. The other thing we have is the a la carte videos. This is also available on the home tab when they click on it. And this is basically the same videos that are inside the courses, but they're broken up so you can just click on them video by video. So it's very small bite size. How do I add a class? How do I add a new student? How do I queue up a test? How do I view a report? Again, this is available as well, and it's really organized. Okay, the final option, of course, is live, virtual, and on-site trainings with our customer success team. So that's always an option. You know, if you know who your customer success person is, go ahead and send them an email, communicate with them, or send an email to our help so we can arrange something. So absolutely, we're here to help with your teacher training, your admin training. We want to make sure that we can always keep everyone informed and up to date. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is digital literacy. So some of you have heard about this, some of you haven't. So digital literacy is really, really important because in some parts, it's part of equity, right? We forget that a lot of families, if they have access to technology, their parents are using technology, they know about these things, but other students don't. So really, this becomes an equity issue for students who may be lower income or at risk. These are 60 lessons in digital literacy. Here's the list of courses. They're great stuff. Internet basics, computer basics, phone basics, search browsers, cloud versus local, filtering, file types, cyberbullying, digital identity, video conferencing, chat rooms. And all of these are available for free for anyone who has an ELA Edge license. Okay, so now right now, of course, this isn't like our normal ELA Edge or Math Edge where you take an assessment and it's an adaptive course. So you just have access to these lessons and you'd be using them through our alignment tool. So we can work with you to go ahead, set this up. So you would say, okay, I want my 5th graders to do these courses or these lessons, my 6th graders to do these lessons, and so on and so forth. The one piece here, of course, is this is releasing in November, right? So it's going to be, it's all ready to go, but we just have to add one piece so that it shows up inside the alignment tool for people with an ELA Edge license. But in the meantime, if you want to get exposed to it, start planning for it, we could send you the list of lessons so that you know, and you can start planning on, okay, which ones do you want to use or have access to. I actually think some of these would even be great for your teachers as well, because there's a lot of really, really good topics here. Okay, and by the way, these are the same format as Edge. So there's music, there's animations, there's graphics, there's a game where you get points afterwards as well. All right, the next piece I want to talk about is DORA Dyslexia Screener. Okay, so what is this? Dyslexia screening has been defined when you look at the 29 states who have a dyslexia screening requirement, and it's really for K1, K1, 2. It really boils down to these tools: uppercase letter identification, high frequency words, beginning phonics, phonemic awareness, rapid naming. Okay, rapid naming is the only one that's a little, a lot of people don't necessarily know what it is. It's really almost like vocabulary. It's common objects, but it's timed. So this is what we've defined Dyslexia Screener to be. And initially we had sort of a broader definition, but we've sort of solidified it to this. This will be releasing in late November. It actually technically is ready, but what we're pending taking the raw scores and the screener score and pushing it into the data portal in the Active Pulse tab. So once that's done, then it's officially done, because obviously you need to access the data if you want to use it. The other piece is that it'll also be a part of DORA. So if you have administered DORA, we're adding a new screener score, which will say whether the student is at risk or not for dyslexia. And so the only difference with DORA is it's slightly different because in DORA, you don't have rapid naming, right? And you don't have uppercase letter ID. So we are doing it based on these other scores and then also just a regular vocabulary measure. Now, technically, that's still, valid because really dyslexia screening is saying if somebody is struggling in basic decoding, then they're at risk for dyslexia, right? And so it's a slightly different measure, but it's also going to be, valid. So anyway, that's sort of the overview. And if you guys have questions, like I said, just you could type those in the very end. And we're excited about this because this is becoming a more and more important piece to catch dyslexia up front. And of course, a lot of states are requiring it now, so it becomes an issue that you may have to implement this. All right, so let me just talk about in review. We talked about formative assessment systems. We talked about parent help tools and communications, better PD tools for your teachers and your administrators, the digital literacy that's coming in November, as well as Dyslexia Screener fully launched in late November, right? So that is our fall update in a nutshell. There's a few other things coming out as well, some more features, but this is sort of the big, broad picture stuff I want to talk about, right? So let's go ahead and take questions right now, and we'll see if you guys, if I can help you answer some questions. All right, so we got a lot of people in there. So Lily or Christina, if you guys have any questions, you could actually just go ahead and either text them to me, or you could just shout it out. Okay, let me see something here. All right, first question. Are videos available in Spanish? Yes, so I did say that. So the videos are available in Spanish for parents. So when the parent clicks on that little parent help icon, there's an English and Spanish icon, and we have all of those in either English or Spanish. All right, good question. All right, can you repeat the steps to queue up a quiz? Absolutely. I could actually show it to you real quickly as well, if I could figure out how to. Okay, so the way you would do it is normally if I'm on my class tab and I have an individual student, Leslie, I can either click on view queue for Leslie specifically, and I come over here, and now I'm just going to go down here and say, okay, well, I just went through long vowel with Leslie, and I want to queue it up specifically for her. Boom, click queue. Now Leslie has long vowel queued up. Next time she logs in, it'll show up under her assessment slot. If I wanted to do something for my entire class, I go up to test queue, manage class queue, and then from here, I would do the same thing. I would find something, place value, decimal, and now when I hit queue, I'm queuing up for my entire class. Okay. All right. Let's see other questions. Yes, someone said they joined late. Yes, this is being recorded. We'll send it to you. On a positive level, we're trying to keep it a little shorter. It should be hopefully 35, 40 minutes. And when you watch it, if we upload it to YouTube, by the way, you could speed it up. So you don't have to listen to me talk slowly. You could speed it up to 150% if you want. All right, next question. Can you progress monitor students over multiple years? Absolutely. And I'll show it to you right now. So look at this. This is a demo account. So this is live data, but all of the students' names have been scrambled or obfuscated. So that way, we're not violating any privacy data laws. Okay, so if I take a look at a student here, I click on progress monitoring, and now by default it's 6 months, but if I go over here to 5 years or all, this is all the student's data. So here I can go boom, boom, boom. I'm clicking from this student first grade all the way up to 6th grade, and now I'm going to say chart. So here's the student's data. Now this one I'm just looking at, broad strokes. This is numbers and operations, measurements data. So this is strand scores. Yeah, that's it. Another question. Does the progress monitoring feature help you comply with special education laws and requirements? Absolutely. So here's the big thing about the progress monitoring. We score in grade level scores. So it's a criterion reference score. So scores are eligible year over year, right? So as a result, it makes it great for progress monitoring and compliance with special education, because they don't want to hear something like, oh, I tested Johnny in with a teacher-made quiz on decimal place value. And you know, they want to hear something, or he got a 75% on a teacher-made quiz. They want to see that something is tied to standards, as well as sort of like a valid and reliable score set. And that's what all of our assessments are, right? Because everything is made up of skills that roll together into subtests that align to grade level scores, that align to strands, that align to broader areas. So absolutely, good question. Can Let's Go Learn help determine which goals are right for IEPs and progress monitoring? Yeah, absolutely. So this is a piece, this is actually launched over a year ago, this one feature, but so it's not new, but I'm going to show it to you. So if you wanted to do something for an IEP, you come over here and you select special ed. So if it's a student, here's Olga, I come over here to SPED, and now I say, okay, what do I want to work on for this student? She's lowest in data. So maybe that's what I'm going to target for my IEP. So I click on data. And now for special education, you need to identify present levels as well as instructional skills. So initially for my IEP, I may want to do present levels. And this is where I have all that. Olga will solve word problems involving linear patterns. Olga solves word problems using data. So this is my present levels that I can copy this and paste this into my IEP and modify it. Now, when I want to do progress, set goals and progress monitor, then I come over here and I select the skills I need to work on. So now I select instructional points, and now I say, okay, I'm going to choose the lowest one. So what we're going to work on maybe is here, outcomes. So these are the areas that we want to work on, and we're going to maybe make that part of her benchmark goals, right? And again, there's scores tied to this. We see standards. This is the grade level standard that she's working at. This is the grade level standard that she's at since she's in 6th grade. So this is the data. So this requires a whole separate, we have a video already on our site that sort of describes this in more detail, but there's a whole process around this. So that was a good question. Yeah, a lot more.
There's a question on additional cost for adding formative.
Sure. So formative does have an additional cost. So that's something you will need to talk to your educational consultant about, or the customer success, and they can help you with that. Now, it is something you could also get for only some students, because we do realize this isn't something necessarily that every single student needs. It really depends on the workflow, right? So, okay. So the question was, you mentioned, I'm not sure, I think I might have answered this. It was about PLAFs. How do we help write PLAFs? So I'm right here, I'm inside of this. One of the things about a PLAF is knowing your present levels. So I think the way we're going to help with that is if I know that in the student's IEP, we're targeting certain areas, right? I would drill down to where I want to target. But I also could, present levels, I could also just be using these scores too, right? To some level, you could say, and I apologize, you know, the IEP process is very complicated. So on one level, present levels could be, what are their scores? So you may want to just take these scores and say, this is what they're at. Right now in numbers and operations, they're at mid-5th grade. Right now in data analysis, they're at mid-4th grade, right? So that could be something that helps with your PLAF. But sometimes you may also want narratives. And if that's the case, I may want to say, what is their present level? Specifically, what can they do? So if I want to just sort of stick to numbers and operations, I could say, well, Olga can correctly round to the nearest 10, hundreds, and thousands. She correctly identifies place value of decimals, right? So this can be used in your PLAF. We do have a narrative down here. Right now for math, it's really small. It's actually getting upgraded this year, this calendar year. And this will be more of a bigger paragraph. And if you do look at it for reading, it's actually a very rich paragraph. So if I go over here for reading, and I choose the same report, this paragraph right here is very descriptive. It talks about how the students' abilities across decoding, vocabulary, and comprehension. So this is a great one. you can copy that, modify it, paste it, adjust it. I mean, obviously the idea is it's got to be customized for each student, but this is, you know, based on their data and their profile, we're writing a paragraph on that specific student. So again, we're trying to make this easy, make it easier for teachers to write IEPs. All right. Wow, we had a lot of good questions. Anything else coming in through the chats, Lily, Christina?
I don't see anything additional right now.
Okay. All right, well, that's it. Then let me just go back to my slide right here. So if you all have any questions, you know, hopefully you know who your customer success specialist is, reach out to them. You could also email us at help, and they'll help guide you to the right people. But like I said, hopefully this gave you some context of what we're trying to do. And again, you know, one thing people don't realize is the majority of the features in our product have come to us through requests from customers like you. So if there's things you want to see or things you say, wow, that'd be great if you guys could just do X, let us know, because you know, we're happy to do it. We want the system to help you make your lives easier. So let us know. We're committed to making our system better in the greater context of equity for all learners. All right. Thank you very much.